Welcome to the info session for i-fooddesigns Ensemble. Ensemble is a very exciting collaborative project that we are developing and launching with its first iteration for this year, focused on the future of European food systems. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jashan Sippy. I'm the founder and director of the International Center for Food Design, and we are very excited to bring this opportunity and project to you guys, to our community. So let's begin with addressing a few key questions, which is the basis on which this project has been built, right? So to begin, we're looking at what can art do for food? Now, as many of us know, there are bigger fish to fry out there in the world. We've got to deal with climate change. We've got to deal with political dilemmas. We've got to deal with economic crisis. But at the core of all this, something often overlooked, but that plays a massive role, is food and the condition of food system. And therefore, we're calling on eating artists, on food designers, to use their expertise to bring about awareness in these subjects through food, right? With that, we look at why food designers. Again, as food designers, we often are overlooked or taken for granted in terms of what it is that we can bring in terms of the seriousness or the value of our work. So, what Ensemble will do again is create a strong cohort of food designers, a sort of team of food designers working together to bring about and showcase each other's skills through the Ensemble project. And how will we do this? By combining the best of both worlds, physical and digital elements. So we will ultimately look at how we can combine short film and cinema, storytelling, but of course, do this through the actual aspect of tasting in the form of dishes during events, conferences, and other kinds of activations. So that is an overview or an outlook for why and how we've come up with Ensemble. In essence, as a participant, it's very simple to begin with. All you need to do is choose a relevant challenge for yourself. So that is, it could be something that your local food system is facing if you are based in a European country. But if you are not located in a European country, you can address a key issue across Europe as long as you're able to demonstrate a relevant connection. Perhaps you've studied there, perhaps you have family roots in that country, maybe you've worked there in the past, or you have some other kind of exposure and connection to that region or location. And with this, we're looking at a concept submission deadline by April 27th before midnight. So let's look at that timeline once again. We've opened the call for projects on the 3rd of April. That's officially today. By 27th April, so you have almost 1 month for coming up with or identifying the key issue for what it is that you wish to address through this project, right? First week of May, we will have our jury where we will inform you of the selected projects. And we will begin with our online artist residency program. With that, we will look at midway around the 22nd of May, a check-in with you to see if you need any support in terms of the deliverables or the way that your project is progressing. And finally, we expect a final submission, which is a recipe of a dish and a finished video. I'll get to the details shortly, by 14th of June. The reason we want this and it's such a tight timeline is because around mid-August, we will have a soft launch or a proof of concept in the Netherlands, and Jasper will talk about it with us in a few minutes. So we'll do a test of what we want to do in October during our first iteration of the ensemble during Dutch Design Week in Eindhoven. All right. Don't worry, all the key dates are also published on the website, and we've prepared a document with all the details. So in case you feel like you've missed something or you need to revisit it, you can always check that on the website as well. So in essence, what we're doing is we're inputting a group of food designers, a group of problem statements or issues facing our European food systems. With that, we come up with a group of ideas. We have a collection of recipes, and we have a powerful compilation of messages that will ultimately lead to an infinite, hopefully, number of iterations of eating experiences where we can put together, depending on the subjects at hand, different menus or different dishes to create different menus. Every time your dish is selected for an event, your video will also be played to tell the message or the story of that issue. That way, we will try to maximize the number of occasions with which we can execute these iterations. So, think art festival, design week, agriculture conference, university gathering, all those occasions. And ultimately, with that, you will be able to collaborate not only with other food designers, but also local stakeholders, event producers, chefs, conference organizers, etc., in each of the locations that the selected projects will be from. So let's look at the deliverables, right? So it's three simple elements that will combine together to make up your project or your submission of the open call. So the first is what you would in theory submit during your application before the 27th of April. So that is basically your research, which is in the form of a concept note. So you've identified a local or a focal area of your project. This acts only as an indication of your desired outcome. Of course, as you go through the residency program and the development, that may be refined or changed. And it's important to know that your project will be selected and evaluated based on this concept note. So, therefore, it is not recommended that you propose something, get selected, and then through the residency completely change or don't work at all with your original concept, because then it would not necessarily work during the end product, right? Along with that, you have a video to create. So this will be a short film in horizontal or landscape format, anywhere between 2 and 4 minutes long on average. So this, in terms of what's in that video, that's up to you as the artist or as the creator. This could include voiceovers. It can have headshots of you speaking. It could have you conducting local site visits, so going to a farmer's market, for example, or to a field and harvesting products that you're talking about. It could have clips of you cooking or actually preparing the final dish, or it can be something else completely, right? You have the possibility as well to discuss this during the online residency program if your proposal is selected. Apart from that, you have a recipe to deliver. This recipe will serve as a guideline for our ensemble hospitality partners. So again, in a few minutes, Jasper will clearly tell us what it is that we will be doing in the first iteration in October. So you'll have a better idea for that. And essentially what this is to support your video or paired along with your video, we need a step-by-step recipe for creating a dish. We're asking for it for a standard 4 people so that it's something that we can scale and multiply quite easily, along with a reference photo so that someone who's recreating your dish has the, let's say, reference point to be able to follow your recipe and kind of see what the outcome is intended to be, right? So again, concept note that informs your video, and the video supplements your dish. The recipe of your dish is something that the local partners, every time we run iterations, are able to use as a guideline to recreate your dish. Now, each time your video is played or your dish is selected for different occasions, as a contributing artist, you will, of course, be credited and involved. Now, maybe conducting research is your thing. Maybe you're super comfortable with recording videos but don't have experience with video editing. Or maybe you know how to cook, but putting this down in a formal recipe is something that daunts you. Don't worry, because through the residency program, you can let us know during your application if you feel like you need support with any of these aspects. It is something that we could look into the possibility of providing you with. Okay. So that is the let's say the process, the timeline, as well as the content. So how can you apply, and what is it that it takes more in terms of the participation and evaluation? So we have a non-refundable participation fee of 27 euros to submit projects. I'll take you through a demonstration of how to go through this. If you have a valid or an active iFoodDesign membership, there is a fee waiver available as well. So that means you can participate in this project free of cost. For evaluation criteria, we will be looking at the relevance of the concept or the narrative. So the initial research that you conduct, how pressing a challenge is it, or how does it address certain issues within the food systems that need urgent solving or addressing? The clarity of deliverables. So during your application, if you already have a sort of vision for how that narrative will translate into your video message or short film, as well as if you are familiar with or know which core ingredients maybe, or an idea for the dish that you want to work with, that will also help us see the connection between the three elements during the application. Apart from that, your artist profile, so your motivation for us to understand why it is that you believe you would be a good fit for the ensemble. This is, of course, a collaborative, community-based approach. So it is absolutely important that we have like-minded participants that feed off of each other's values. And if you're located outside of Europe, once again, that is not a problem as long as you can demonstrate a connection for the local food system in any of the countries or areas of focus. Again, once it comes to the residency program, we will start after the shortlisted submissions have been announced. Project support is available if you need support with either the research, the storytelling, putting together the video, and or putting together the dish or the recipe. A midway check-in like this, we'll have an online meeting. It's foreseen on the 22nd of May. At that point, we can, of course, look at how far you've come and also be able to give you some feedback in terms of, okay, these are some people we could connect you with, or some ways that you could improve your project or make sure that you can meet the timeline, so that the final delivery date of the recipe and the video is on the 14th of June. All right, so with that, we will be going into iteration number 1, which will be at Dutch Design Week in Eindhoven. So in October, we will select up to 5 projects. So don't worry if we have more participants or selected projects. It does not mean that every project will be displayed in iteration 1. Like we said, ensemble means we put those pieces together based on the best narrative of fit we can weave between the different projects. And then we will do a test or a soft launch as proof of concept with Creative Chef Studio around mid-August in the summer, in the Netherlands as well. And then we see further iterations at agriculture, food, art, design, climate-related summits, conferences, think tanks, festivals. So this way we really demonstrate the power of food designers' work and the format and the multidisciplinary approaches that we bring. Once you've checked out the landing page, if you do decide that it is interesting and something for you, you can decide to submit a project. When you submit a project, you'll have the ability to put in your details, make the application fee payment, or enter a coupon code, which as a member, you can let us know that you need. So a personal coupon code will be given to you to waive the fee, but you will still need to go through the checkout process. After which, when you log into your iFoodDesign account, you will be able to access, or you'll already be able to see the ensemble project, through which you will finally then have access to a form where you can make your submission. So on the iFoodDesign website, you will be able to identify and click on Open Call. Once you have Open Call, you have all the details in terms of the important dates, as well as all the questions that we've addressed and a few additional details that you can go through, including what is expected of me after my project is submitted, for example, right? Um, should you decide that you wish to participate before 27th of April, you can click on Submit Your Project, which will essentially take you to this checkout page, as I mentioned. You can enter a coupon code if you have an active i-fooddesign membership, or otherwise just pay the €27 fee, fill in your details, check out. You will get a confirmation email to log in to your account. So you will have this where you can finally then either log in or create your account if you're a new i-fooddesign user. After which, when you log in to your profile, you will be able to see the Ensemble product already ready. Once you click on that, you will have access to the form with all the fields that you need to submit. And that's it. By the 8th of May, we will review the applications and we'll get back to you whether your project is eligible to make it and has met the evaluation criteria and is able to participate in the hybrid residency program. I asked our friends from Sharp and Sour if we can use a recent project of theirs as a case study or inspiration. So I'm going to do that before we go. So recently, for Anima magazine, they conducted a series of research and created articles, photography, and developed dishes, essentially looking at a recipe for the future of food. Now, again, this doesn't need to be the direction you go. This is one of several ways that you could decide to go. So if this project was a part of Ensemble, for example, what they have done is they've conducted research into specific ingredients that are healing the planet. So they've gone into those aspects of positive ingredients. So that was research. So that would be the narrative, healing ingredients or recipes for healing the planet. That is the concept note. That's all they would have to submit. Then what they've done is gone into creating combinations or pairings. So they've used a gastronomic method or approach with food design. So based on a problem or based on research, they created these recipes. Now imagine as they were creating these recipes, conducting this research, looking at, I don't know, sourcing seaweed or growing beans, all that footage would come into a video and we had this recipe. That is the end deliverable. Now, when Martina executes this project for a conference where it's relevant, she's able to look at those recipes, recreate it locally, subject to available ingredients, seasonality, all of those things, and showcase Sharp and Sour's research through this video, which makes the consumer think, right? So otherwise, for example, they've come up with zero waste bread, which is maybe Bhavika, it can be like this, that it's a common issue. Bakeries everywhere, every day, don't sell certain bread, they have to throw it out. So what does this do? It basically is upcycling bread to create new bread. It's as simple as that. And that becomes the conversation or the thinking piece for people in terms of circular economy, right? So it doesn't have to be a huge environmental issue. It can start from any direction as long as it is thinking broadly and addressing the butterfly effect of those choices that we're making through the narrative. And perhaps you're wondering now that you want to get involved more with the project. We also have volunteer opportunities within the Ensemble project itself. So we have the opportunity for program management, specific partnerships management, residency program management, video editing, grant management, strategic business sales, events coordinator, and head chef. Right now, we're doing all those roles, but like we said, we want to give the food design community more opportunities to be involved in these projects. And these are remote positions open to interested candidates. And the time commitment is expected to be between 3 and 4 hours a month. And there are small stipends that we will make available for your involvement and contribution. So, with that, as part of the iFood design community, we invite you to interact with us, to flourish in your food design career, and to discover all the possibilities that food design has to offer. And in case you're interested, you can join us during our office hours. We will launch new free office hours for the month of April and May very soon. So take a look out for the dates on social media. If you have questions, we will head into Q&A now. And otherwise, you can always become a member and take advantage of the discount that we currently have for the spring period. All right, we will get into questions, comments, feedback.
I'm Martina Fiorito. I am a food interaction designer based in Italy right now.
So great question. The question is, when there are iterations, is it that every time a project is selected or a dish is selected or a video is selected that the creating artist needs to travel to that location to do it? No, you don't need to, and that's why it's created in the form of an archive of video and recipe. We will discuss with you. You will always be credited when your project or dish or video is shown at an ensemble event. You are always welcome to join, but it's never required of you to do it. We don't want to, everyone has their own schedules. We don't want to force unnecessary travel and put more pressure around. Of course, it's nice to meet each other, but it's not an obligation because that would be something that would prevent us from scaling, replicating, or doing this more to have a larger impact. So, no, it is not
Okay.
required, but you are welcome.
Will you find like a sort of connection between the five different projects?
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's say we have a theme on biodiversity and agriculture for a conference in Milano. Then us talking about obesity as a video may not necessarily work if that is one of the issues that someone's project is on. So that wouldn't be so even though that project is relevant to ensemble, it may not be relevant to that iteration. So therefore, every time there will be, so when you submit your project, you will also put in keywords that link to your narrative or link to your project or ingredients that link to your dish, which will help us build a strong selection database through which we can then curate modular eating experiences and video viewing experiences at each different occasion.
How could we contextualize it for the European food system if we are submitting from another country?
If you've not necessarily, let's say, studied, you don't have any family, you've not traveled ever to the European, any European country, you've never interacted with the cuisine, I doubt it, because all of us all over the world are exposed to it on a daily basis. If that is the case, then you can identify a loophole, for example, and link your context of export or trade between Europe and India, and that way still be relevant in terms of issue or connection to be able to qualify without the touch point or without the context.
You've touched upon policy making and things that are connected to food systems per se, but I would also like to understand how definitive is that, and are we looking at non-political or non-food system contributions or explorations, or is that a more narrowed niche of this is what we're looking at, the environmental and political aspect of food systems in this region?
So you're not restricted to anything. What anything we've mentioned there is a starting point for you to, let's say, start explorations. As long as you make it relevant and it's positioned in a way that it makes people think and it will help us all improve the future of the food system. And you can put it into a video and there is a dish attached to it. You're the creator. It's up to you entirely. Sky's the limit. Go crazy. Do you have to create a new project entirely for this, or can an ongoing project be submitted as part of Ensemble? As long as you possess the rights and the permissions to submit every element of that project, it can be an ongoing project. Small plum available only in northern Italy that one of the members told us about the last time we met. Now, if she was to create a project based on that plum, it may still be, let's say, relevant in terms of the project. But with what Jasper just said, if that project is selected for execution in the Netherlands and a dish has to be created based on that plum, we will have to realistically replace it with local plums, although your video will still tell that story. So you see, in terms of execution, there has to be that flexibility that makes it, and that's why your video will still be paired, but obviously we're not able to taste or serve guests a northern Italian plum in, I don't know, August in the Netherlands. So those are just things to consider when you are coming up with a project. So give flexibility for execution. And that's why this is not a project only for chefs. It is not a project only for designers. It is a project for eating artists and food designers, because you have the experience and touch point likely of working on both sides of this, from creating the narrative and the submission and addressing an issue to actually pulling things off. So that is sort of a balance to keep in mind as well.
I made a tool and a recipe that it's inside that tool. It can be made with an artisan on Europe. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. This is what Jasper and I discussed as well. It
Okay.
is a possibility, but at the same time, note that then the frequency of your project being selected
Okay.
may reduce if the dish is essential to be served inside the tool, which means every time there's not enough either time, budget, or artisan skills available,
Okay.
that will not be executed that way. So what you can do is definitely, if you have that tool, for example, it's in your video, you do it and you supplement the recipe or the dish with that tool when it's possible, then I would say it's a welcome addition. But if your whole recipe and dish is based on the tool, then it may still get selected for the ensemble project during your submission, but its execution, the way you envision it, may be hindered. So don't let that stop you. But at the same time, I would try to say, let it be two cherries, essentially, not peas in a pod.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Lovely to see you all. We had members, non-members, new faces, old faces, people in Europe, people in India, people in Latin America, everyone. So a small intimate group for now, but hopefully a impactful iteration number 1 that we're able to work on and execute together. And with that, I will say goodbye for now and hope to connect and see you very, very soon.